Welcome to Bow Hunting Pressured Whitetails. My name is Jake, and today we have two dudes, Charlie and David. And David is related to me. Charlie's not. Over
Get out of here, Charlie.
Yeah, we're just gonna be having some good old fun conversations over here. And Charlie brought a buck that he shot, and it's public land deer, so I feel like it's pretty relatable to the channel. He's gonna share that story, and we're just gonna talk deer in general. So that is the plan. The reason I'm wearing headphones and they are not is because I can't actually hear very good at all. My right ear is very loud. My left ear is very quiet. So it's just kind of a weird thing. So I'm like just glancing at my levels all the time. Making sure that nothing peeks out because I really have no idea.
I can never hear people. I just read their lips.
Little do we know, David's deaf and he's been living his entire life without hearing.
If Matt was here, the other Matt, I'd be like,
yeah.
Matt, share your story.
What?
Yeah. So I guess that's a good way to introduce Charlie. So we were joking about Matt is the guy that helps us out flipping houses.
Yeah.
Charlie helps us out flipping houses too.
I do.
So does David. But David's related to me.
Not really. We just kind of correct all of his mistakes.
Oh, please.
Yeah. So not only we're friends and we're also coworkers, so works out cool. But yeah, when we first met, we sat down for an interview here in a coffee shop over at a little town close to me, and we just started talking about deer, and I was like, well, you going to come work for us? And he's like oh, yeah.
I think it started out with about 5 minutes of introducing each other, and then the next about 15, 20 minutes was just us talking about hunting and, YouTube channels we watch and things we're up to.
Yeah.
I'm like, you hunt? He says, yeah. I'm like, I hunt too. And you're like,
yeah, it's just like a weird, awkward, it's like two dudes on a date in this coffee shop. That's what it sounded like. We're just like over there giggling in the corner.
Yeah,
like, First light.
Look at this deer I shot. Yeah. That was the first time I got to talk with most of Jake's family because I got a DM. I was on vacation at the time at Christmas.
Well, you knew David before you went.
Yeah, I knew David.
I didn't even know who you were. David was just like, there's this guy named Charlie.
I knew.
I was like, what?
Yeah. I knew most of your family. I knew Matt, I knew Josh, and I knew David, and we used to go to a youth group together, and then I grew out of that group, and well, we were still like friends on Facebook.
They had like a 5'1" height limit to their group, and then you got to be 5'2", and they're like, "You are boosted.
You are out of here. See you later, kid." And
graduated to the next group.
Yeah, but I got a DM on like a Christmas vacay with my family. I was in Utah at the time, and I just get a text, middle of nowhere, out of nowhere, just like some guy named Cornish, and I go, I recognize that last name. And he just said, David recommended me to you.
That was me aggressively fishing for help.
Yeah. And I had been in the construction job before that. And he's like, hey, you want to come work with us? I was like, oh, yeah, sure. And then I saw your profile, and it had like a deer. You standing there with a deer. I was like, well, this guy must be the smartest guy ever. And so
wow, I would not put those two together. But
from there, we arranged a
date.
Meet up, a date, a little breakfast date to have some coffee and discuss, work topics over. But that quickly evolved in deer hunting. So
that's how we got to know each other today. David and Charlie just came over because they wanted to shoot bows, and me and Savannah typically go. Today's Sunday, so we usually go to church. But Savannah wasn't feeling good. I haven't been feeling good for a while, so we were like, we'll just stay home. And if you can hear a movie in the background, it would be Savannah's movie playing.
Trying to sound us out.
Yeah, we just shot a little bit out there. It's starting to get pretty hot, though. It's supposed to be like 90 today, I think.
Sweating bullets out there. You got a pretty sweet setup, too, so.
I know. And
it's so nice to shoot.
I can't wait to
shoot through the woods a little bit. It gets you in the mood real
It's going to be pretty sick little setup. Next year, that'll be the year where it's nicer, and I'll have a little trail.
It's always
there
next
and everything.
year.
Yeah.
No, next year's gonna be better.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, it's been crazy. I guess the last video that went up on the channel was like me sitting in this house back when it was in shambles, wasn't it?
That was the second video.
Or that was the second to last.
You showed your picture of Dan Infault.
Oh, that was the hunting expo video. That was the last video that went up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie went with me to that.
Saturday.
Yep, we went Saturday, and then John came down and went Sunday.
That's when you shot the video.
Yep, I brought the camera and shot some stuff and then uploaded that. So yeah, that was pretty fun. I got to meet some guys. We didn't really meet anybody when you and me went. We just were kind of
No,
like
yeah,
rounding
I think
the
all the
booths and
famous
everything.
characters were.
The famous dudes were.
Yeah, we're
busy.
all taking a dirt nap because they drove
Well-
all the way over here from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I mean, I was up in the UP, but like, you could have called me. Right?
Yeah,
you
David
coulda got
wasn't
ahold of
there.
David if you tried.
He's too tired and lazy.
I would have answered your call. Maybe.
Yeah. You shot your first deer ever with a bow and recovered it last year.
Yes.
Yep. And that was after a year of debacle. Because you shot how many? You shot 2 deer the year before,
Yep.
right? And didn't recover any of them.
Nope. Trouble with the neighbors both times.
Yeah, that's rough, and that's one thing that I don't think a lot of people that aren't from Michigan realize. Or I mean, I guess there's other states that are the same way, but I don't think people really realize, like when I talk about like, oh, I shoot expandables and this is why, it's because I want the deer to be dead within like 30 yards after I double lung it. So everyone's like, well, that's stupid, but I'm like, you have to understand, sometimes
There's property lines.
there's
40
property,
yards
there's
within
property,
any direction.
Yeah, there's property lines with, very close to where you're hunting, and if that deer runs across them, there's a chance you might not be able to get it. And we had that happen with David, where he couldn't go and track that buck. He shot a pretty nice buck.
I never even heard about
And-
this whole story.
Yeah, well, he shot one, and he didn't make a lethal shot. We thought it was a lethal shot. He shot it high in the back,
Yep.
and we tracked that for a long time. Came back the next day, and it wasn't gonna die. And then you shot another one, and that one was back in the guts, right?
Yep.
Yep. And then, and we started tracking it. We just didn't have good blood, but the timing with all the timing, like the neighbor was like, no, we don't want you to go back right now, because I think gun season was about to open, wasn't
Yep.
it?
It was right before gun
Yeah,
season.
so he's like, I don't want you, scenting up my woods and stuff, which is understandable, but that's just how the cards fall, like it's not like other states where the law allows you to go pursue beyond the property boundaries, and
Yeah.
you can just, because there's a lot of states that are like that. So I don't think everybody understands all of the different troubles that different people face. It's just so
Yeah.
different from state to state, and it's
That's
like,
a situation you run into. Then it's like,
I
you
know,
can't-
like the fact that you can go to North Dakota and you can hunt anywhere that's not posted.
Yeah, that's the same thing in Maine.
Blows my
In
mind.
Maine, if
I'm
there's,
like,
in Maine, if there's no sticker on the side of the road saying no hunt here, just walk right
Right.
in. That's crazy to me.
yeah,
like-
this is how different the laws and how different everything's set up.
I mean, Michigan, it's like,
I know.
one, you're not allowed to go on other people's property, and two, every single property has like 90,000 pounds of stickers on every single tree, just saying, "Do not come in. New hunting."
And then the
you're
next line, in case
trespassing."
you walk past the first line of trees, post.
Yep. It's
Then if
all
you get
throughout
into
the
the
tree.
woods, you're gonna run into like 35 people.
Yeah.
Hiding in the trees.
You walk in and you get a
Another
stand.
15
yeah.
on the ground.
Due
or
to
in
the-
lines.
For me, I never really had that big of a struggle, because my dad and me, I mean, when my dad started me out, my dad had already been hunting public land for 40 years.
Right.
He'd when did I start hunting? I started hunting when I was like 15, and he was already, he'd been hunting state land since the very beginning,
Uh huh.
because he lived up on a lake in a little lake house up in Ionia, and like the only hunting land he had out there was either
That's
you could get
John's stomping
permission,
grounds over
you
there.
either got permission or you hunted state land, and at that time, I don't know, 30 some years ago, permission was a little more less lenient than it is
it's
now.
really hard to get. I mean, it's hard. I feel like it's always been hard to get.
It's always been hard, but he started out public land hunting, and so I mean, it was just natural that when I started hunting, it was public land,
right.
and just it was.
Why don't you go grab your buck over there? Kind of give that thing the old 360 so people can get a look at it. Yeah. Lower it down just a little bit. Yeah. That's gnarly. And the thing that is crazy that I never understood is how many little burrs that he has that go
Yeah.
way up his rack.
I mean,
Like way up to his G2s
I've noticed in
almost.
like a lot of mature bucks, they get that gnarly, like right towards the very base, right next to the pedicle, and then it kind of comes up. But
And then
but
he's
this guy's got
it's
it.
bladed right here.
Yep.
Turn him a little bit so they can see
He's
the blade.
bladed here. His back end of his left G2 has got real thin stripe here. He's got this, like the gnarls go up the broad tines. I guess that year was 2020, year of The old,
Guess.
that year was
It could have been 2019.
No.
Could have been 2023.
well, the 2020
Just saying.
2020 was a real weird year. The 2020 was the year I graduated high school, but it was also so
I get you. That is a weird year. And
So-
it was high school graduation year, huh?
year got cut short because of and I graduated early that year. So basically, at the time you
Here,
couldn't
set them down so I can. The
they
focus
couldn't
is on-
I couldn't do any schoolwork because I could have, but they froze all their grades. I said I got better things to do than mess around with this schoolwork, so I just got on living with life and started a job. And once hunting season came around, I was like, hey,
See ya.
yeah,
Quit your
basically
job and
it was see ya.
start going hunting.
And that was the first year that I really figured to myself. I think I had been archery hunting for 2 years, shooting my bow for 5 years prior than that because my dad gave me a starter bow and I'd just been shooting in my yard, and I decided I wouldn't start hunting until I was 17 because I didn't feel that my skills were high enough
Or that you were legally old
or
enough to.
legally old enough to hunt on my
You've
own.
never done that.
Nope, never. But
Growing up when you could hunt behind your house and you're like, Mom, can you see me? Mom, can you hear me? Ah! You're like, yes, this is the spot.
yeah. And so,
Home teach.
I mean, I looked on Onyx, I went, la-da-da, and I looked all over this spot, and of course my dad has been hunting he had been hunting all that land before, so he knows a little bit about every single spot I've ever tried to hunt, which is kind of annoying, because he's like,
Kinda nice, though.
Because, yeah, it's kind of nice.
I wish
it's
I had
really
like
a blessing,
some,
but at the same
elderly
time,
person. I was like, have you ever hunted in here?
I made a point to hunt that area and then saw some small scrapes and whatnot and found out a tree, and all throughout early bow season, not a single deer.
Yeah. So
But-
not only was this a big buck, but this was your first.
My first
Bow
archery kill was
You're
this,
so lucky.
this buck. I'm spoiled and I say ruined. I say ruined because now for the like
No, but it's sweet. I mean, like for that to be your first buck in a public land buck, like how the heck are you gonna top that now?
Yeah,
I mean,
that-
I hope you do, but
We'll get into that because I had that whole conversation already. But kind of checked the area, saw some tracks, saw some larger tracks on the ground, on the dirt because it had just rained, and I was like, went back into a spot in a little kitty corner spot, virtually unlooked by all the hunters around. I did not see any tacks in trees, no tire tracks.
That
in
means
any
I probably
parking
wasn't
spot.
there.
Yeah, basically, no tracks. No flags, no nothing. I didn't see a single thing, but it was a little kitty corner spot of state land.
don't
That
get
was-
too
There was,
specific.
I'm not gonna say anything, but it was
It was a small kitty corner
Corner
piece on
with
the
the
side of
this
the
road,
north
North
piece.
North Piece, da 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 da. No,
Everything.
well, I decided to set up on it. I went and grabbed my stand, moved it, and the next 3 prior days were just me getting busted 3 times over by this doe that would sprint in, be 15 yards underneath pretty much under my stand, and would beeline look at me right away. And I was like, this spot is hard, but I know there's a nice doe in here, because at the time I was just beelining to shoot any deer. I mean, your first archery kill, you're not trying to shoot a buck, or you're just trying to shoot anything really that's
Right.
legal. And I set up on that spot, got busted, and I was like, fine. And I called my dad, said, hey, I need your help on this spot. I know there's some deer in here that are coming in here daily, and I know where they're going. And he went in there, gave me some advice, showed me a couple things, and moved my stand with me to a new spot. And we kind of scoped out some spots where he might be walking in and, shooting lanes and whatnot. And after, this was October 31st, Halloween day. This is all right. We're going to go home, get a shower, and go out hunting. I got home, took a shower, went, man, I'm so tired. Don't want to go out there. I just moved my stand, tracking all over the woods. My ma looked at me and said,
Get up, you lazy butt.
basically, she says, you can't kill it if you're not in the stand. And I said, you're right. And my dad on top of that says, the best hunt out of his tree stand is the first day it's up. And I was like, that's fair.
Wise words, Dad.
Thank you, Dad. I went out there. At the time, it was an old man climber that an older gentleman of my dad's gave to me. He just gave me because he bought a new stand and said, "Hey, young chap, you want a stand?" I was like, "Yes, please." Got in that stand and I sat there for maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours, and that same doe that I'd been busted by came down, and I was farther down the trail from where I had previously set up, and that doe came sprinting under there, and I looked behind her, and tight behind her was a yearling doe that she'd been carrying with her.
You're like, wow,
And
this
even
doe has a child.
And then I was getting ready to pull back on this doe. She was completely broadside at like 20 yards, and I looked behind her about 15 yards, and there he was. I couldn't
Just
quite
drooling.
make out his horns,
Mr.
and I couldn't quite
Potatoes.
make out his body because his body was so dark.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
He is a
That's a
dark
buck.
deer.
He like jumped at her. She took off way fast, and that yearling stayed by. But that buck tried to cut her off, and he ran. Grunt stopped him twice. I had to yell at him twice. I was like pretty much yelling at this buck because he was out on this doe's heels. I was like, yeah, and he finally stopped, and he stopped perfectly where his head sat right behind about like a 6-inch tree, and he kind of looked in my direction, but the tree was right in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I drew back as soon as I grunt stopped him and threw my 20-yard pin on him, kind of floated the pin up a little, and I squeezed the trigger, and it 10-ringed him. 10-ringed him. I mean, it hit him hard. I could hear that smack so, like, crack. He took off. Arrow came straight out of him. No worry about that. This was the arrow here. I shot that buck with a 23-year-old bow. PSE Fireflight that my dad had given me from a friend of his that he had sitting in his closet.
That's
And
pretty
then
sweet.
He gave me this 3-fletched, like real old Easton arrow that had been sitting in my dad's, like behind his dresser for a while. And he's just
Right.
like, here you go. And then we went and got cut and threw Grim Reapers on it because that's what my dad had always been shooting. I 10-ringed that buck, and I watched him jump off, and that's when I set in that this buck was not the average buck that you see on state land in Michigan. And I was like, whoa.
What are you talking about? These guys are running around everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
150. Another
So
150.
I did the typical.
We should pass those
I
up.
did the typical like buck fever after buck fever kind of thing where you're just sitting there like frantic. You can't even keep your hands straight. I managed to dial my mom's phone number and call her. I mean, my first phone number was my dad, but he's still been in the stand. He was still out there hunting. He had his phone on silence. So she ran out there with my mom, my sister, and we tracked
Your
that
mom
buck
ran
down.
out
And
with
he
your mom.
Hey, dude, I commend you for that. That's pretty cool.
Call
One
my
time I
mom.
took my mom out when she was pregnant, and we couldn't go very far.
It was basically just
She's
like
I gotta go into the
me
house.
standing there like going blood, 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 blood. Oh my goodness, a lot of blood. Oh my goodness, a lot of blood. And my mom sent me on me like, oh Charlie, oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
She's
This
like
is the
your
first time I ever
cheerleader in the
shot a
background.
bow, and she was so proud of me.
That's awesome.
And we ran up on that buck, and he maybe ran 40, 50 yards
Yeah.
tops,
I was saying,
and
it's
toppled
probably-
over, and oh my goodness, it really set in then when I pulled him out of the brush and pulled him out into like a little
Did
opening.
you have
to
like
stare
a
at
whole
him.
bunch of old timers, like experienced hunters, come up to you like after that, and they were just like, "Nice deer,"
I
Just like this disgusting
like it's just
look,
disgusted look. Like
nice.
yeah, so
Good job.
yeah, I got a tiny bit of
We
that,
hate
but
you,
that's
though.
like later in the story. But finally got a hold of my dad, and he came out and checked the deer, and we had a little bonding moment of that. I was crying, I was bawling my eyes out because I was like, "Oh, this deer is huge! This deer is a big buck." My dad's like, "Oh my gosh, you lucky!"
has he shot anything like has
Close
he-
to that?
Yeah,
One,
really.
way ago,
Yeah.
way ago, when I was real young.
Yeah. 2 videos ago, when I was sitting down in here just kind of yakking, and the house was a mess, and I was talking about throwing cameras up and everything. And so since then, I put out 3 cameras up behind my house, and it's been pretty much just kind of like a stupid amount of large deer that have been on my camera nonstop the entire time from then till now. And it slowed down a little bit because it's right about velvet shedding season right now. But it's been pretty nuts. Not gonna lie, probably the most big bucks that I've ever had on camera before. I've had some nice deer on camera, but I think I've counted like 7 mature deer and probably like 3 or 4 bucks that are very nice. I'd have a hard time passing. I'd have to literally restrain David from smoking
Makes me want to barf every time you send me a picture.
Well, I kind of felt bad because like I was so jacked when it was all first going down. Like get these deer on camera, so I'd be texting them to Charlie, texting them to David, and texting them to John.
It was the daily buck picture subscription.
Yeah. It would be a running joke at work being like, pa-ting! Oh, guess who that is? Guess who that is? Oh, it's Jake texting me a photo of
Another
his monster
monster
buck in his backyard. And it kind of, I don't know, it kind of set me off a little bit because I was
Yeah.
like, I just got new to cell cam photos. So I was like, oh, I'm going to put a camera way back in there and I'm going to get big bucks. And I got, I got some nice bucks.
Scrawny
Some
little
typical...
fellas.
No, well, some typical like Michigan whitetails where it's like a nice 8 or like maybe a 10. Like a nice 8 was back there, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's so good. And then, ding, oh, there's a giant 10 point. Oh my goodness. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jake. You're so helpful.
One buck I call the Big Ten, and he's just big frame deer, and he's got like his G4s are kind of like crab clawed on the end of his main beams. Pretty sweet. Just monster deer. And then another buck that looks just like him, and I'm not sure if it's the same one or if it's a different one. And one of them looks younger, one of them looks a little older. And so potentially maybe 2 different bucks. I'm not really sure. And
When you
then
get a little bit older.
maybe when he gets a little older. And then I got the Wide 8, which he's just kind of a big, mature, I don't know how old he is, but he's definitely over 4. Big bodied deer, real wide, short tines. His main beams go way out, which is how I can distinguish him from another deer that's a big Wide 8. And he also has short tines. So when I see the two of them, I have a really hard time figuring out if I'm looking at the Wide 8 or a different one. With the Wide 8, his main beams go like he just looks wide, and then if he tips his head up, then you see his beams
How
go.
far
they come
They go straight out like crazy, and yeah. So then I have another Wide 8, and he's just wide with real short tines. Brow tines are way far apart. Then I got the tall 8, which is just kind of a real 3.5-year-old
Crazy
buck,
looking
but
buck.
really nice, tall, cool deer. And then I have another 3.5-year-old, which is the Basket 10. He's got some cool kind of mass. He's got like a bladed brow, and he's just a real nice Basket 10. There's some other bucks. There's a lot of other 8-pointers and stuff that you probably would shoot. Anyone would shoot on like public and stuff, but they're just not been the main dudes.
Oh no.
Which is so weird. And I was like, I'll never be that guy that's picky on my own property, But when you have
When you're
7
that
deer,
guy.
yeah, it's like, well, I have enough of them out there where it's like, if we go out and hunt, I feel like we can hold out until we see something that's
Oh my
pretty
gosh.
decent. I think there's more, but I think the ones that I have the best chance at so far are, or anybody, whoever's hunting back here, because I'll probably have both of you out at some point, and David will probably just make himself a home here once bow
Yep,
season
basically
starts.
that,
Live in
that
the
third
basement.
bedroom's getting
Yeah.
taken
I'm
up.
gonna eat your food.
Man.
I'm gonna poop in your
David.
toilet, and I'm gonna kill your deer.
David,
Yeah.
what a problem it is to have so many bucks that are shootable that you just can't name them all. Oh man, it's more than in my hands. Oh, 1, 2, 10.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of all these big bucks.
It's gonna be hard not to shoot some of them if I'm back there.
Yeah.
feel like
So
you
me
need
and
a-
David,
I'm gonna see some little 8-point, and I'm gonna want to shoot it.
me and David went back there. We walked back there to go pull some cards, swap them out, and when we got to the bottom where we had one of our cameras at, we were getting notifications on one of the cameras a little farther
Just
back
up the
where they
ridge.
bed. Yeah, and it kept sending us photos. It was like, voot, voot, voot. And I'm like, well, they're on their feet. And we get down to that camera in the bottom. We look up, and I'm like, there they are.
At the top of the ridge.
They're at the top of the ridge working their way down. So we just stood beside this tree, and this huge bachelor group of bucks was up there, and one of them peters all the way down, gets within easy bow shot of us. A real nice looking buck, like a nice 8-pointer. Something, most of us would be like probably flinging arrows at, and
Oh, yeah.
But that wasn't even the big one, and he eventually caught our wind and then ran off, and some other ones ran off. I think some of the bigger ones were in there too,
Yep.
because I got pictures of them that morning. So just pretty nuts, really nuts. So
I'd say one of the ones up on the hill. You couldn't see anything like above his head, but you could see like the main beam coming off of his head was like just massive.
really, I never got a great look. I went through that video to try to see if I could spot anything, but I never got a good look. When you said there was one that was up there that was
Yeah,
big,
he
I
was
was like,
big.
I
Big
didn't.
old
I
2-inch
couldn't
main
see.
beam.
I couldn't see how tall he was or how like long or anything, but I could just see the bottoms of his antlers come off of his head and how thick they were.
Jeez,
And I was just like,
it's gonna be crazy because
I
like
feel like it's already crazy. You showing me so many pictures of these bucks that you're getting on the daily. I mean,
that's
and
just
even-
behind the house,
Yeah,
and
that's
normally
just
I
behind
don't
your
have
house.
this at all.
And then you got
And-
state land photos clicking off, and
Yep.
I mean,
we got a buck we nicknamed Butt Kicker.
mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
came up with a rap
a
for him.
rap for it, so we came up with a rap for it. Yeah,
It was like Butt Kicker kicking big bucks' butts. We were like
You-
try to say that really fast.
yeah.
But he's
Big
real
bucks.
cool. He's like every bit of a 150. He's probably the size of your buck, and then he's
Yeah.
got this big old tine coming right off of his base, like a big old eye guard tine.
Yeah, it's like an extra broad tine. It's just that like peeking out right in front of on his right.
And that's real cool because he's in an area that I've been trying to dissect for a while, and he's in this little spot. And I was like, me and David had spooked some deer out of the spot when we hunted, and I was like, I'm gonna go walk down there and put a camera because I feel like there's something up with that little spot down there. And I did, and then like boom, he's on camera walking this little kind of like a flat running along the edge of a swamp. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is another little
Good
hidden
point.
deer corridor that
Yeah.
nobody knows about. So
I mean, I've heard it once and I've heard it many times before. Be
that
curious.
dryer, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the dryer going off. But be curious. Be curious.
Yeah,
'Cause,
so much fun too. It's like
I mean,
you never figure it all out.
yeah,
you never do.
deer hunting is always a learning experience, and nobody ever has it figured out. And
No.
like just being curious, you can figure some stuff out that other people are like look over real
Yeah.
easily because they're just one too lazy or they just assume things.
Right.
unless you're Dan, then you just know everything.
Yeah, unless you're Dan.
We should see if the audience wants us to turn this into an actual podcast,
Oh,
then they should comment below and also pay us $100, and we might turn it
pay
into
us $100.
an actual podcast.
You don't even.
Right now, it's just YouTube's.
You don't even have to pay me.
YouTube's.
I'll talk about hunting.
I'll take $100.
My
I'm gonna
problem
talk-
is I've been so freaking busy this summer.
Yeah.
I can't do anything hunting. Do anything hunting related. Like I usually make so many videos. Right now I've got climbing sticks I want to review. Oh gosh, I want to go make more videos on
feel like-
scouting and putting trail cameras up and shooting my bow. And it's like I've been working on houses nonstop. This summer's been ridiculous for me. And then as soon as I get a break, I get sick. It's just been like.
Yeah.
So if that's why the videos are.
I just gotta pester you more about hunting, and then we can actually do something. Because then you have someone
Yeah.
who really wants
No,
to go
it'll
do
be good.
something.
We gotta figure out a way to. Man, it'd be cool to do like some sort of a trip too, where we had like multiple people that could come too.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously whoever
Who
wants
else
to go
can
to
we bring?
Wisconsin could come. I love when Joshua comes with us too. He went with me in Ohio.
You got a good filming.
And yeah, filmed with me. That was a lot of fun. But we'll get there eventually. One of these days, we'll do a North Dakota opener trip or something.
Obviously, my ma doesn't like the whole idea of me beelining it off to Nebraska and hunting on my own without
Yeah.
any adults.
But if you go to Wisconsin,
But if I go to Wisconsin with
that's just
some
across the
buddies,
border, eh?
that's not that far
It's just not
away.
that far.
Yeah, I just like to go and see some big bucks in the old Wisconsin. The old cheesehead's got a lot of big bucks over there, so I thought I'd just check it in.
So we've been on here jabbering for about an hour, so we're gonna wrap this thing up. But
Yeah.
Charlie, it's been great having you over here.
Thank you.
You've been at our house. You've been at our house quite a bit, but this is the first time we actually sat down. I haven't done
Sat
any
down and kind of chillaxed at
videos
this
in a
house.
while, but yeah, yep. So it's
Hopefully,
been
have me
fun.
on again.
Yep, David will obviously be back. He's crashing here all the time. We'll see what the next videos are going to be. I might be doing some reviews on some climbing sticks or whatnot. Who knows? Pretty soon it's going to be season,
Yep.
right? Yeah, youth hunt is in 2 weeks?
Yep.
Which is insane.
Less than that. It's about a
Yeah,
week
so
and a half.
that's when our season videos start dropping from last year. So Matthew's kill is going to be coming up in 2 weeks, and then from there it's just going to be boom, 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 all the way down through December till we're done with hunting season. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll get Charlie on some videos eventually.
Yeah, hopefully. I just gotta get
Give him
some
a little
pointers.
GoPro
Gotta
setup
get some
and-
pointers on how to film and whatnot because
Yep.
I've always wanted to film hunts just for memorabilia,
Right.
just to like.
That's my
look,
favorite reason that I like.
I like
hunting.
looking at it because I can always change. I want something to be so like like a third person view, so I can change things. So like, oh, this happened. I could have done that way better, and I did this dumb thing.
Right. Yeah, that's the best part. Like you don't have to journal anything.
Yeah,
You just go and watch your footage back. So
which I
that's
should
my
do.
favorite part.
Journal.
But journaling is just not very manly, so that's why filming is a better idea.
Filming's better.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you haven't. And if you like very inconsistent hunting videos, but quality, and from Michigan,
I'm kidding.
we're real dudes, really roughing it out and killing stuff. So if you see a big buck go down, it was probably pretty well earned. And we got a couple of them coming up in this year's video. Hopefully a lot more next year's.
Ooh.
Hopefully.
Crossing our finger for this year,
Yeah. Got. Yeah.
but
yeah.
it'll be fun. So we'll catch you guys later.
All right. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Charlie.
Bye, guys. Bye, guys.